Oh, can't you see? We're running out of time. You gotta lose your mind if you think you're doing fine. You can't describe it yet, but something is wrong. Where are your dreams now, and why don't you feel strong? Yeah, yeah. Every day, every night you try to find yourself. Don't live your life as someone else.
Good evening, one. Good evening, all. It is Games Matter here. Wrestling Matters here. Anthony Walker's here. Yay! It's Wrestling Matters podcast time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. Today's show, we're going to talk about the 10 WWE superstars that flopped in WCW. That's going to be part of the show. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you guys are well, whatever it is you're doing. And, 10 superstars from WWE that flopped in WCW. Either that or WCW didn't know what to fucking do with them. Whatever you see fit on that one. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about No Way Out 2003. That's right, because 23rd of February was 19 years ago to that day that 2003's No Way Out was on. So we're going to get into that as well. And if we can, we'll try and talk about some other things as well. But yeah, those are the two main talking points. You know what? We're going to start with No Way Out. Let's start with No Way Out as well. Let's start with No Way Out 2003. Holy cow. And I found this out this past week, right? Highlighted by Rock Hogan 2. Yep. Ow. Rock Hogan 2, I believe, was the talking point of this pay-per-view. And yes, the rematch from the Royal Rumble with Scott Steiner and the Rock, Triple H. I was about to say The Rock there. Rock and Hogan 2. Triple H with Ric Flair versus Scott Steiner. Stone Cold and Bischoff, basically, which was probably one of my favourite matches. But yeah, the matches were Rey Mysterio beat Jamie Noble. I believe that was the kickoff show. I believe, because the first match was Jeff Hardy and Chris Jericho, and it was meant to be Test versus Chris Jericho due to what happened with him and with the Stacy Keibler situation, because apparently Jericho attacked Stacy Keibler, but Test, I think travel issues prevented Test from going, so they stuck Jeff Hardy in there, and this was when Jeff Hardy was doing his little heel turn run, which eventually made him turn back to babyface again. So, yeah, whatever. Also, William Regal and Lance Storm defeated Kane and Rob Van Dam. Matt Hardy in his Cruiserweight days, that's right, Cruiserweight title, Matt Hardy, defeated Billy Kidman to become the new Cruiserweight champion. Big Show got choked out by The Undertaker. It was meant to be a six-man tag with Team Angle, Charlie Haas, Shelton Benjamin, and Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar and Edge and Chris Benoit, but it turned out to be Brock Lesnar and Chris Benoit versus Team Angle because Edge got attacked. Triple H and Scott Steiner. Less said about that, the better. Austin beat up Bischoff, and then Rock and Hogan 2. Hogan lost both matches. But this one, Vince McMahon got involved. So yeah, the whole build-up with The Rock on SmackDown and that Rock and Hogan on SmackDown. You know, what you gonna do? And he spits in his face and everything. Remember that very well. The whole Austin thing as well, when, you know, the precious commodity in this world, time. And Bischoff got about 30 days to sign Stone Cold Steve Austin for No Way Out, or you'd get fired. And eventually he did it, and then he gets put into a match with Bischoff. Triple H and Ric Flair, Triple H and Scott Steiner was the clusterfuck from the Royal Rumble, where Steiner just beat up Triple H, and then Steiner eventually got his rematch, and, well, you know what happened after that. You know, the return of The Undertaker as well at the Royal Rumble, which led to this match with Big Show, the feud with Big Show, and then eventually led up to Big Show and A-Train with him and with what was supposedly him and Nathan Jones, but then it was Undertaker versus Big Show and A-Train. And yeah, just a good pay-per-view, quite frankly. And yes, also the theme song of the pay-per-view was Bring Me to Life by Evanescence as well, which was a pretty good pay-per-view. Yeah, Jeff Hardy replacing Test, which I believe was due to travel issues, because it was meant to be Test and Jericho. But yeah, just a good pay-per-view, man. Very good pay-per-view leading into the WrestleMania show, which was WrestleMania 19, I believe, with what turned out to be Hogan and McMahon as well. Hogan, McMahon, Lesnar, Angle, Austin, Rock, and yeah, the list goes on and on pretty much. I don't know why Hogan never beat The Rock. I would have thought Hogan would have beaten The Rock at that point. But yeah, it is what it is. I generally thought Hogan would have beaten The Rock going into that match. Yeah, and yes, the Rey Mysterio Jamie Noble match was on Sunday Night Heat as well. So, well, the pre-show. Back then they called it Sunday Night Heat because it was a pre-show show, but I don't think they ever aired that, if I'm honest. But yeah, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Good show all around. And everybody's favourite moment of the night, ladies and gentlemen, was when Austin beat up Bischoff. And boy, did he ever, let me tell you. Boy, did he ever. and Jim Ross losing at the commentary position, cheering on Austin, because they messed him over too at the as well at that point. They missed in the lead in the build up to the match. They beat up Jim Ross on Raw. I think it was on the last Raw before the pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, all in all, ladies and gents, a very good pay-per-view. Definitely recommend a watch. You can see that on the Peacock or on the WWE Network, depending on where you are in the world as well. And yeah, just a very, very, very good pay-per-view as well. And yes, that was 19 years anniversaries for that pay-per-view. Just a very, very good pay-per-view all around as well. And if I've missed anything, I apologize, but yeah, that's pretty much all I remember from the pay-per-view. And also, Evanescence, Bring Me to Life, actually brought something different to that pay-per-view as well. Brought something different to that pay-per-view. Right. A little video that I saw on Cultaholic's Facebook page as well, which I'm going to go through. 10 WWE superstars who flopped in WCW. Oh boy. There was a few, let me tell you. There was some humdingers, but yeah, 10 WWE superstars who flopped, and boy did they ever flop in WCW. I guess it wasn't necessarily them. It was more the booker, the promoter, whoever, because WCW did not know what to do with most of the stars that they got from WWE. Let's just say that. And number 10 being one of them, because number 10 on the list is Bret Hart. And you want to talk about failure? This guy comes off the Montreal screw job. Okay? After smacking Vince McMahon after what happened and everything. This guy had so much momentum. WCW did not know what to flaming do with him. And I say that in this respect right now, in this reason right here. They did not know what to do with him because he did not come in until December 15th. I don't know what the hell they did with him because what they call it was back end of November. Okay? What they call it was the back end of November. And I literally did not know what the hell they did with him up until that point. But when you don't know what to do with your own, and it takes a month for him to get on WCW television, there's something wrong there. I'm just saying, there is something wrong there. Okay? And his first match was refereeing Bischoff and Sabisco in 97 Starrcade for control of WCW, or the WCW Nitro show. It's like, what the hell? You know? This guy should have been booked, but they didn't know what to do with him. You know? Hogan, Bischoff, Hogan, and, this guy should have been in the program with Hogan, but he didn't. And he helps Sabisco win the belt, win the Nitro thing. And then eventually joins the NWO, which made no sense. Eventually ends up winning a world title, which is probably what he should have done to begin with. WCW just did not know how to book him. And I remember Bischoff even saying this as well, they created the Thunder show just so they could use him for Thunder and be the star on Thunder and be the top man on Thunder because, like a brand, I think they wanted to do a brand split at the time. But they wanted that to happen and then have him on Thunder to be the flagship of that show. Oh my God. A lot of people, WWE superstars, wanted to go to WCW. Shawn Michaels being one of them. And Shawn didn't go because they didn't know, because Vince knew that they wouldn't know what to do with him. You weren't kidding, man. He weren't kidding. You want to talk about flops? Beefcake, number 9. Or the Butcher, the Clipmaster, the Booty Man, don't get me started on that, the Zodiac, the Man with No Name, and the Disciple, which was his final one that he had. Good grief, you want to talk about names this guy had? But let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason he was ever in WCW to begin with, he never had the fame that he got in WCW. He never had the star power that he got in WWE. With the Bruce Beefcake gimmick. But this guy was only around because he was Hogan's best mate. Let's be honest with that. Let's tell it as it is right there. That was the only reason, because he was Hogan's best mate. Jesus Christ. Next one's Ahmed Johnson. Oh my God. This guy was a top star in WWE, Intercontinental Champion. His bad attitude got him kicked out because it was basically what he did to Farouk, Ron Simmons. And Ron Simmons came back and had a match where the guy literally beat him up. He leaves WWE, comes back in 2000, right, to join WCW, part of this new Harlem Heat thing that we're doing with Stevie Ray and Booker T. This guy put on so much weight, it's not even funny, okay? This guy was a shadow from himself in WWE. Ahmed Johnson, he was ripped to the core. This guy comes back in. Doesn't last long, by the way. But boy, oh boy, did he put on so much weight. It's like, what the fuck did he do when he left WWE? Like, seriously? It couldn't have been good, either way. Either that or the after effects of him getting his ass kicked by Farouk really messed him up a little bit. I don't know. And I even heard him say it as well. It was in an interview. I don't think it was on Stone Cold. I think it was on a podcast. Or somebody said it on an interview. I don't know. I believe it was Mark Henry. He beat the piss out of him, Farouk. So maybe that had some sort of effect on it. I don't bloody know. But good grief. Also, they ended up signing Marty Jannetti. Now, Marty stayed in the WWE for a while. This is the next one, by the way. Marty stayed in the WWE for a while. With the New Rockers, with him and Leif Cassidy, a.k.a. Al Snow, and that. But they could have used him in WCW, but they didn't, because they didn't know what to do with him. So they brought him in and pretty much used him as enhancement talent to get over people like the Ravens, the Chris Benoits of the world, and everything like that. And he could have had a good... I've seen some of his work in WCW. He could have done something. Was he cruiserweight material? You know, was he cruiserweight material? I have no clue. You know, I don't know what his weight was. I mean, they said on Cultaholic he could have been in the cruiserweight division, which I don't know if that would have been the case. I don't know if he was cruiserweight material. I might be wrong. Don't hold me to that. I could be wrong. But, yeah. He was just basically used for enhancement talent. That's all it was. Just enhancement talent. Putting people over. You know, getting them to the next level. And whatever it is. The next one on the list. Oh boy. That this guy hit some bad luck. And I'm talking Jake the Snake Roberts. This guy leaves WWE because he was promised something in WWE. I think he was promised a booking position in WWE. And obviously, the promise was broke. He leaves WWE. His last match was at WrestleMania 8, dropping to The Undertaker. He has a multi-million-dollar deal waiting for him at WCW. He had to wait for his 30-day non-compete clause or 90-day non-compete clause to expire. And right before it's about to expire, the guy he signed it with, which I believe was Kip Fry, got replaced. And one of Jake Roberts' arch nemesis came in and basically just ripped the contract in half and said, "You ain't getting this, motherfucker." 3 guesses who that was? Bill Watts. Cowboy Bill Watts. And I'll tell you this right now, ladies and gentlemen. Him and Jake the Snake never saw eye to eye. I believe it goes back to the days when he was in Mid-South. They never saw eye to eye. At all. And it was a shame because he came in through the crowd, Jake, and attacked Sting. And that was the ended up in the feud, which led to Halloween Havoc when they had the spin the wheel, make a deal match. There was one match as well that he had with Dustin Rhodes, which was pretty decent. I think it was on a worldwide show as well. Or Saturday night, WCW Saturday night or worldwide show. It was one of them. But other than that, his beef with, and his alcohol addiction and his problems and his drug problems and all that stuff, no doubt. But mostly his beef with Bill Watts, because them two never saw eye to eye, is what cost him is what mostly cost him his run in WCW. And he never went back. And I think he sued them at one point. I'm pretty sure he said in an interview he sued them at one point. So, I don't know. The next one was Tammy Sonny, or as she's now known as the Walking Downfall, because apparently she's back in jail again, from what I'm hearing. But I don't know. She got fired from pretty much let go from WWE because WWE saw her, moved her out the way, and brought in Sable. And she was just basically hanging around, what's his name? Chris Candido. That's all it was. Her fiance, boyfriend, whatever the fuck he was. Yeah, pretty much just nothing to do, really. She was just a manager to him, so I don't know why they flopped. I don't know why she'd flop in WCW, but she never really did much except be around Chris. That was it, really. The other one was Jim Neidhart. And it was pretty much Jim Neidhart with Marty Jannetti. He had a first run in about 93. He was used for some matches. Not a lot, but he was used for some matches in WCW. Putting people over and whatnot. Because Bret's singles push went from strength to strength. And the other one, as well, he had it run because he followed Bret out the door when he left for the, when they had the fallout from what they call it, the Montreal Screwjob. And yeah, pretty much the whole Montreal Screwjob thing as well. So he flopped, but I think they were paying him well as well, WCW, but they didn't felt that he lived up to the expectations of it as well. And he had a tag team going with Bulldog, but that never really got off the ground. At that point, he never really got off the ground, unfortunately. Speaking of Bulldog, he was the next one. Now, Bulldog had some bad luck in WCW. That's why he flopped. The first run he had, he was a main event player. He was pushed. He was facing Vader. He was tag teaming with Sting in the main event. Heck, at one point, he was supposed to fight Rude for the title. You know, he was a main event star. Then he left, went back to WWE, and then got let go by WWE again and went back to WCW. But with the NWO around and everybody else, it was very hard for him to get over. Plus, the downfall was the match he had at Fall Brawl, when he got backdropped into a trap door, which was underneath the canvas that they used on the ring for the Ultimate Warrior to get up through the ring during the War Games cage match. And he landed awkwardly on there, which fucked his back up, which started his addiction problem as well. And yeah, he was trying to recover from it. WCW let him go, and about 1999 he ended up back in WWE again. So yeah, Barry Darcel, a.k.a. Smash, a.k.a. Repo Man, a.k.a. whatever you want to call him back in the day as well, because I think he was part of the Russians back in the day in Jim Crockett Promotions. Yeah, this guy flopped, but I don't think it was his fault, because his downfall was the match he had with Dustin Rose when they were on this cart going back, and it was like they were like inside this cage which was getting driven across down the road, and they were brawling on the back of a truck with all this hay and everything. I forgot what they called the match, but it was a good match. Well, actually, it wasn't that much of a good match, but what cost him that was the fact that they bladed. Both of them bladed and bled, and that was a no-no back then, and both of them got fired for it, which was stupid, but whatever. And then he came back again and was enhancement talent and was on the receiving end of a Goldberg beating at one point as well. And the number one, oh boy, Ultimate Warrior. Now, I don't know if this man flapped in WCW, because it even says it on the video, and I truly believe it as well. The only reason he came to WCW, because Bischoff saw a marketing deal with him, a marketing program with him, basically. You know, merchandise and all that stuff as well. But the number one reason why Ultimate Warrior came to WCW, bar none, don't change my mind, because I ain't having it, was so Hogan could get even with him. Because about 8 years prior to that, when he came to WCW, WWE, Hogan loses the WWF Championship to the Warrior in 1990 WrestleMania. And I covered this before because Hogan wanted to turn heel that night. And the only reason they brought him in, the main reason they brought him in, because who did he have a program with first? Hogan. And that was big, just to go Hogan, so Hogan could get over. As far as the rematch they did have, less said about that the better, because it was the Sting show. It was the biggest clusterfuck in the history of wrestling clusterfucks. Okay? It was the worst match on that card, which was Halloween Havoc 98 as well. It was the worst match in the history of matches. So less said about that, the better. But that was the number one problem that they had as well. That was the number one problem that he had. Other than that, I think he would have done fine. Not perfect, but fine. But damn, they brought him in just to do that. And no one could change my mind. Anyone with a brain could see it. Hogan was on an ego trip at that point. I mean, come on. Anyone could see that. Anyone could have seen that. Hogan being on the biggest ego trip in the history of ego trips, if that's even a thing. And all he wanted to do was get even with the Warrior for what happened at WrestleMania 6. You know? Simple. You know? Simples. But anyway, that about wrapped that up, ladies and gentlemen, as well. Right, I'm going to talk about the direction before I head off with this podcast. I'm going to talk about the direction. Excuse me, I'm playing a game here as well while I'm doing this. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the direction. The aim for this now is, I hope you've enjoyed these videos that I'm bouncing out. I do aim to get some interviews. I have somebody who can help me with that. You know who you are. As well, so shout out to you as well. And don't worry, guys, we ain't gonna be doing promos on this show. Oops, I broke the fourth wall again. Yeah, long story, not going into it. But yeah, I hope to get some interviews as well down the road. I don't know what kind of interviews I can get. I can get some few interviews as well. They're gonna be a separate show. So if I get an interview and we go 3 hours long, that's going to be a 3-part interview going into the week after. You know, so I'm just going to do that as well. I'm not going to put the whole interview up just so you can listen to it but be bored out. So you might get them in part if I go, which I probably will, if I go the full length, depending on what the interviews I get. I hope to get some interviews going with their EPW, the wrestling show, the wrestling promotion that I do up here as well. Hopefully, like I say, easy said than done. But we'll see what happens as well. But yeah, that's the aim I want to go down now. At the moment right now, you're just going to see simple shows like I'm doing here right now, talking about various topics like I have done since January when I started this again. It's going to be various topics recorded just to see what you can go in. Maybe a few reviews here and now and pay-per-views. I'm probably going to do a WrestleMania review as well the weekend of the WrestleMania show as well. So is what it is. We'll see what happens on that one. But other than that, ladies and gents, thank you so much. So yes, look out for them. Good things are coming to this. Like I say, we're just rebuilding the podcast. We're going to build it back up again. Rebuild it back up to this stature again. So hope you guys will be sticking around for that. Like, share, subscribe this video, and like it on Facebook as well because it's going up on there as well. Also subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more podcasts. Maybe some extra shows here and there depending on what I want to do. But until then, guys, thank you so much. There'll be another episode next week, and I'll see you then. Enjoy the rest of your week, and peace.
Oh, can't you see?